We are starting in the Gospels today, so that is Mark, Luke, Matthew and John. So we're going to be touching and... Maddie!
This is me last time. You're excited! You're just excited!
Gosh!
You're excited.
Okay.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Say it in order.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, John.
In order.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Whoa! Damn! Okay.
Hey guys, and welcome back for such a time as this. I'm Madeline.
I'm Rachel.
And today we're going to be talking about another episode of The Women in the Bible. Today we're going to be talking about Mary and Martha.
We're so excited for this episode, you guys. This is going to be great.
Yes, and I just want to say, or we want to say, that we could talk about all these different women in the Bible for days. So we just want to put it out there that we're barely scratching the surface when we talk about these, and we're just talking about what Jesus and what God has shown us through these and how we can relate to these women. So we hope that you enjoy this episode.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
All right.
Are you ready to start?
Yes.
Okay. Today, for a little bit of background, so before we even jump into where we're going and who Martha and Mary are and all the chapters and all the verses, we're just going to be going over the chapters. So right now, we are reading the Gospels, so it's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and we're not even going to really be touching on all of those. We're just going to be talking about Luke and John. So that is where, Luke is where we first meet Martha and Mary, and for this passage, I'm just going to read this really quickly. It says, Jesus at the home of Martha and Mary. Jesus and his disciples went on their way. Jesus came to a village where a woman named Martha lived. She welcomed him into her home, and she had a sister named Mary. Mary sat at the Lord's feet, listening to what he said. But Martha was busy with all the things that had to be done. She came to Jesus and said, Lord, my sister has left me to do the work by myself. Don't you care? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, and really only one thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her.
Nice.
That is just such a powerful chapter, and I love it, and I relate to it in so many ways.
And we're gonna unpack it all right now.
Unpack it all. So, the first thing that kind of just like sits out to me is, well, actually, before we even get into that, I really want to talk about their personalities. For me, Martha gives me like older sister core. Like she is like, she's respectful, responsible. She like knows where everything is. She is just a doer. She's a go-getter. You know what I mean? So Mary is younger sister core. She's like, I don't have to do anything because my sister's going to take care of it all and I'm the baby. That is the two different personalities, type A and type B. You know what I mean? And it just like, when I put it in that way, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, and I just want to say first things first that like, when I first started, even before I started reading this chapter, I really thought that there was like, not that there was something wrong with Martha, but I was like, wow, like, why couldn't she just like sit and listen? And then I read this chapter again, and I was just like, honestly, like set free from this chapter, honestly, because God was like, this is how you are all the time. This is what you're doing all the time. And it's just like, it's crazy to really sit and like let that sink in when you're like, oh, I'm so busy and all of this stuff. Who created that? Not God. You're worried about the wrong thing, because why are you doing X, Y, and Z all the time? And granted, like, don't take this the wrong way either, but like also like we set our own schedules, and I think that sometimes we feel that we can juggle more than we can handle. And then when we're like, where's God? Well, he's exactly where you left him. And I think that that is like such a crazy thing to be thinking about, but that's what I've been thinking about all week. And if you follow us on Instagram or TikTok or all of the things, you kind of knew where we were going with the series and who was coming next, because we kind of touched a little bit on it. On, I think it was Tuesday, when day was that? Saturday? I don't even know. Whenever I posted it. But we're just gonna kind of dive into who Martha is and who Mary is, and I'm just really excited. Do you have anything to add before I go off?
Yeah,
a little tangent.
I have a lot to add, but I'll start and we can keep going back and forth.
Cool.
So you mentioned how Martha gives you like big sister vibes.
Mm-hmm.
I think a key thing in this passage is that Jesus came to Martha's house.
Yeah.
It was Martha's house.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really significant because back then, the man was in charge of the house.
Yeah.
So you wonder, like, where was Martha's husband? Or was she a widow? Like, what was Martha's backstory?
Yeah.
But she is in charge of the house. And she lived with her brother Lazarus and Mary. So she is basically the one in charge. She is independent. She is a leader, and some would say. And I think it's really interesting to think about that because independence and control, we can definitely take it to another level where I personally think it shouldn't go, especially in my life. I feel like when you are an independent person because of your circumstances, because of what you go through, sometimes that independence makes you want to be in control of everything when you are not supposed to be. And when, especially with God in your life, like, He's the one that's in control. And I think that is a big display within this chapter, but then when we later talk about the one in John as well. So I just wanted to point that out at the beginning, because I think it is about control. I think Martha definitely I think Martha definitely feels a sense of control because it is her home, because she is the one to do things. And it's not always a bad thing, like you said.
Yeah.
But I get that vibe, and I get that because that's me too. I was very independent as a kid, and I am even now, and it's like all that independence has made me feel like I always need to be in control of my circumstances when I don't have to be.
Yeah.
And so I can relate to Martha a lot, and it's like I want to go a little bit more, but I want to know if you have anything to go off of.
Yeah, I mean, for me, just off of what you're saying with like the control thing, we all know that I'm a control freak from my previous stories on this podcast. But I think that it also, like, at least for me, and this isn't for Martha at all, but something that I'm learning as I was reading this message and I was going through everything that I was going through this week, it's that I, as much as I am like Martha with controlling things, I have a hard time trusting, and that's something, so that's where my urgency for control comes from, because I can't trust people to do it the way I would do it. So it's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you're doing it wrong, like, oh my God, okay, like, whatever. But this is like something that's so great, and we're kind of going to touch back a little bit, is that no matter how, like, Martha was, she always trusted the Lord. She always did that. And that's something that, as much as I say that, oh, I trust God in this area, I can't say the same for a different area. And it's like, why do I trust God with my eternity, but I can't trust Him in the here and now? And that's something that I was learning, and I was walking that out on my walk the other day with the Lord, and I was just praying, and I was like, He was just kind of showing me these little things, and that was kind of hard to like touch on. But I wanted to say that, all that being said, was that what I learned from this is that even though she was type A, God still loved her. God still was like, hey, like, Martha, like, and I love that, Martha. Like, I guarantee you He's just like literally like watching her and just like shaking his head laughing, like, you're stressed. You don't have to be stressed. You're fine. Like, look at Mary. She's just vibing. We're just hanging out. Like, it's okay. But like, when you see, like, it wasn't just Jesus that she was hosting. Like, she was also hosting 12 other people in her house. So, like, obviously, if something isn't clean, then, like, it's like, oh my God, I have to cook the food. I have to do this. And no one is helping me. Can't you see, like, what I'm doing? Tell her to come help me. Like, I understand, Martha. I get it. But it's like, oh man, like, to see that, and just to see, we're gonna touch base on this in a little bit, but to still see her trust and say, like, God, I trust you, and it is your plan. Like, at the end of the day, like, that's something that I still aspire to be. That's all I wanted to kind of say off of that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I do want to go back into this too, and from a little bit of different perspective, because I love how you portray Martha, because you give her so much grace, and I want to, but I also see myself being Martha in a different light, where I'm like, okay, Martha is telling Jesus what she wants. That's how I take it, when she's like, you tell her to do what I want her to do, Jesus. And Jesus is like, Martha, Mary chose the better thing.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, that's me. I'm always like, God, I want them to do this for me in this way on my time. And we'll touch back on time too with the other chapter, but it's just like, Jesus like, Maddie, no, it's my time. Maddie, choose to just like have your eyes fixed on me. And I think so many times I feel like Martha, where I'm like, God, I trust you. I don't want to be in control, but I want this to happen like this. And it's like, Jesus, the way Jesus answered Martha was just so beautiful, because he didn't disown her. He didn't, he wasn't mean, he wasn't rude. He was just expressing how to be in his presence, just like how Mary chose. And I think it's just really beautiful, because I know if Jesus was here in the flesh right now and I were to go to him and I'd be like, God, like, why is this person doing this? And like, why can't you tell him to act this way towards me? Because I have those thoughts and I have those prayers with him all the time. I know he would have the same response of like, your eyes are not fixed on me. Okay. I'm going to be so real. I think a part of Martha, her identity was in her home. I think her identity was in herself more than it was in Jesus at a point in time. Because I think, for me, when I am like, God, why isn't that person doing what I want them to do? I'm saying, Jesus, let them worship me, basically. Let them be doing what I want them to do. Tell them to do what I want them to do. Like anything, any type of like prayer like that you ever have, it's like you're telling God to have someone do something for you, when it should be, God, what do you want? What do you think should happen between us? Why do I have these feelings? Why is my identity coming from a different place and not in you? Why am I worried about, wanting someone to please me when I should be trying just to please you?
Yeah.
And I hope that came out, because it was like all blah, blah, blah. But it's so true. Like, it's such a mind shift of being like, okay, like, my identity, is it in Christ or is it in wanting other people to please me? Because I definitely feel like that's how it can be. And I feel like that's how I can relate to Martha. And granted, like you said, like Martha loves Jesus and trusts him, but sometimes even I love Jesus and I trust him, but sometimes even I can end up being like, you know what, God, like I want this person to do this for me, and that's not the heart posture you should have.
Yeah. So I was watching Stephen Furtick's message the other day, and something that he said the other day that I thought was so funny that it's just gonna, it just works. And God literally I was like, yeah. So he said the other day, there's two things you can't control. You can't control people, and you can't control the weather. And I was like, and me praying for sunny days all the time, like every weekend. I'm like, please God, let it be sunny. Like, oh my gosh. But it's true. Like, she can't control Mary. Like, and if you have younger siblings, like, this, like, you can't do, like, you can't just, up to a point. Like, when I was, like, I'm going to tell this really funny story really quickly. Yeah. But when I was a kid, like, when I was, like, 10, my brother's, like, 7 years younger than me. So when he was younger than me, and I wanted him to do something for me, I'd be like, Jaden, go get me that thing over there. And he'd be like, no, Ray, I don't want to do that. I'm like, Jay, I'll time you. He's like, you're gonna time? Okay, wait, let me get ready. And then he would go. So like, I just thought that was so funny, and I had to share that message. But like, you can't control people, and you can't make them think the way that you think. So like that's just not realistic.
And to think that you can tell Jesus what to think.
To think and how to think. Yeah.
Is beyond me.
We're just right there.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I wanted to go off of really quickly what you were saying with how you portrayed like the Lord going up. How I thought of Martha going up was like, Lord, like, can you tell her to like help me? Like, what the heck? Like, all sassy. I just think it's so funny. I'm like, because that's literally me.
Yeah.
Like, so when I read this, I was just like in kind of awe about like the whole entire thing, because I was like, God, I'm so sorry that I like do that and I make my schedule like, and I forget to add you to it sometimes. And that's a really like hard truth, hard reality, because I'm like, how many of us actually do that every day?
Yeah.
So that's just something that I wanted to kind of make really known with this podcast and with this episode, because it's like just a reality, like a harsh reality of how many of us are overlooking God and being like, oh, well, he's still there, he's still with me. And then all of a sudden we're just like, where is he? I haven't talked to him, I haven't heard from him. And it's because we're acting as a Martha. We're not focusing back on Jesus. Like,
we're distracted.
You know, we're distracted, and that's like a really hard place to be, and that's actually exactly where the enemy wants you to be. So it's like we have to kind of break those chains of being distracted and being busybodies, because it's not producing any fruit. And especially when we're claiming to be busy in the name of the Lord, it's like, are we busy in the name of the Lord, or are we doing the works that we think that he wants us to do, or are we actually being present and doing the work with the Lord? There's two different things. So that's something that I also wanted to make known too. I hope that makes sense.
It did, and I could just add a little bit more too. I think what you said was really important. Or are you having this big agenda like Martha did to Jesus about what you want and how you want it? And it's like, that is a whole nother, like a heart posture change. Is it, God, like, what is your will for me? Or is it, God, I want you to do X, Y, and Z for me in this time, and if you don't, then you are not God. Like, that is a heart posture change that I think we all need to have sometimes.
Yeah, that is good. So in this next chapter, we're now in John, and this is John 11:17. So in this title, it's called Jesus Comforts the Sisters of Lazarus. So Jesus ends up going back to Bethany, and in this chapter, Lazarus is like on his deathbed. Like, he's like sick, he's actively dying. And something that comes over, so Jesus comes back to Martha's home. And I just wanted to say, for this part is very important, and it's just gonna kind of set up everything that we're about to tell you. With Lazarus being on his deathbed, the sisters called for Jesus to come, and he didn't end up showing up until 4 days later. And I wanted to start off with this one. So when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. Lord, Martha said to Jesus, I wish you had been here, then my brother would not have died. But I know that even now, God will give you anything you ask for. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. And Martha answered, I know he will rise again. This happens when people are raised from the dead on the last day. So just starting off with that verse, I just wanted to kind of touch on that before we move on to the chapter, if you're good with that. So for this, I just want to say Martha has so much faith, and she has so much trust in God. And I think that, again, like I said earlier, that's something that I really lack in certain areas with trusting God here and there. And I think that's just with everybody. It's like, God, you have this, and you have this, but please don't touch this. Don't make me uncomfortable in this area too. And it's like, that's the only way we ever grow with God, is by being uncomfortable. And that is such a huge thing, and that's something that I'm learning. And it's like little things here and there. But to go back to the story, and why I stopped here, was because she has so much faith and so much trust, and that's where I want to get. Because even still, after not showing up for 4 days, she still looked at him and said, yeah, I know, because God is going to give you anything you ask for. And that is just like something that's so big for her, especially after her brother just died. Like, for me, I would be like, I don't even know. Like, I don't know how I would respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is just something that is so big, and I want to get that way with my walk with God. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I took out of that passage.
So that is so funny. So I have something completely different.
Really?
Completely different. And I'm happy that I do.
Oh my gosh.
With the same part.
Same part? Okay.
So I love that you said that Martha has so much faith. So with that verse, when Martha goes up to Jesus and says, if you would have been here, my brother would be alive. I think she's still in that mindset at the house where she's like, if you would have been here when I called you, he would be alive on my time, my timeline. And Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. And Martha says, I know he will rise again one day. But what she didn't realize is what Jesus was really going to do in that moment. Jesus says to her, I am the resurrection. What she doesn't realize is that Jesus is going to die on the cross for her and her brother and her sister and everyone's sins. And that is just so beautiful, because in this moment, Martha is going to grow in her faith with the Lord, because she thinks, again, like she was like, Jesus, if you were just here when I called you, like he would have been here, because I know you could save someone from being sick. But what she didn't realize is that Jesus came back to die on the cross in that moment. And I think that is so beautiful, because he later in this chapter, so then Martha says, yes, I believe you're the Messiah and the Son of God. So they have this really cool interaction that I really think Martha didn't realize the full extent of what Jesus was going to do, or what he was coming back to do later on in his walk here on this earth. So I think that's really cool. And then when we go down and we talk about Jesus asked Martha to call for Mary, and Mary comes, right? And I think you have something to touch to this too, but I just want to point out that actually, I'll just have you read it and you do your point, and then I'll go back to mine.
Okay, I wanted to actually say, because I meant to say this earlier, but I don't know if this is going to change your perspective now. But when I was studying this, what I learned about this and about Jesus and Lazarus and the girls was they grew up together. Yeah. They were friends. So I didn't know that at the time. So I think when I was reading it, I think it made me think of like how like you know when you're best friends with somebody, like you fight like brother and sister. So that's why I think I thought of it like that, because I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like, Lord, like, hello, like, can you tell, you know what I mean? Like, not, but she's never like, I didn't think that she was like being disrespectful about it, but at the same time, because it's like, when you're that way, when you're that close with people, it's like, well, that's just who they are, I guess. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know. That's what I got out of reading that. And especially after, like, finding out that they literally grew up, like, as neighbors and grew up together and all of the things. And they've known each other for a while. I didn't know that until I started looking into it. And I was like, wow, this goes so far back. This is so crazy. Yeah.
And, like, the reason why I say that I don't think Martha realized what Jesus was going to do is because when he does end up going to the tomb, she says to him, it's going to have a bad odor in there. He's been dead for 4 days. And that shows a little bit of lack of faith and a lack of what Jesus is actually capable of doing.
Yeah,
so that's why
that is true. Okay, so to move on from Martha to Mary now. So this is something else that I was really excited to talk about, because I just think this is so beautiful too. And this just shows like Mary's faith and how strong her faith is too. And after Martha and Jesus had a conversation, Jesus calls for Mary. So this is the conversation that they had. So after she said this, She went back home and she called her sister Mary to one side to talk to her. The teacher is here, and Martha said, he is asking for you. When Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Jesus had not yet entered the village, and he was still at the place where Martha had met him. And then it goes on to say, she ends up running out, and the Jews, they thought that she was going to like mourn for her brother in private. But when Mary reached the place where Jesus was, when she saw him, she fell at his feet, and she said, Lord, I wish you had been here. Then my brother would not have died. Jesus saw her crying and saw that the Jews who had come along with her were crying also. And his spirit became very sad, and he was troubled. Where have you put him? He asked. Come and see, Lord. They replied, and Jesus wept. Then the Jews said, see how much he loved him. But some of them said, he opened the eyes of the blind man. Couldn't he have kept the man from dying?
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack. And that's, I think, a lot of people's reality with things and with God in general is, well, he did this for someone else. Why didn't he do it for this? And why do bad things happen all the time? And it's like, there really is a greater purpose to everything. And the fact that Jesus wept for Lazarus and for Mary and like just falling at his feet, it just shows compassion, and that it breaks his heart when we cry, and it breaks his heart when we don't feel great and we're mourning and we're going through grief and all of the things, because it's his pain too. Jesus walked with us through all of this, so he knows like what we actually go through when we're going through it. So that's just something I wanted to say too.
Yeah, I love that. What God told me about this passage is that Mary, when we were reading in Luke, Mary was at his feet. She was focused on him.
Mm-hmm.
She was just absorbing everything he had to say. And then when you come to John, and in the first part, Mary stayed at home. And that detail is important, and you can assume or speculate whatever you want why she stayed at home and only Martha went. What brings me to my next point is that when she saw Jesus, she asked him, she said the same thing that Martha did, basically. Mm-hmm. She said, if you would have been here, Lazarus would be here. And I think in this moment too, Mary lacked a little bit of faith, even when she was fully fixed on Jesus, which is so interesting, because even if you are like a Mary, you can have moments where you lose your faith because of something really awful happening. Mm-hmm. And you look to God and you're like, why? Like, I love you, God, and I'm on my knees all the time for you, God. But why did you do this? And it's like that moment made Jesus cry. Mm-hmm. Because he realized that everyone around him didn't have faith in him. And I think that's what I see in that. Mm-hmm. I see like the compassion of Jesus being like, no matter what I do and no matter what my time is, some of you just won't believe in me. Some of you won't see my plan for you. And it breaks his heart because he loves us so much.
Yeah, it's good, man. That's gonna make me cry. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's so true, because it's like, and we see it throughout the entire Bible. We see it in Peter. I'm gonna start crying. And it's so true, because especially like, and we're gonna touch on trusting and all of the things like in the next like near future after the series probably, but like it really is true. Like we see it in the Bible, we see it in our day-to-day like lives. We see the God winks, we see God moving, we see all of the things, we see him providing, but for some reason just the worldly desire to be like, I need the control, I need to do this, it takes away our trusting him when it's like, oh well, the credit card can't get paid off right now and I'm in debt here and the house isn't paid and this is not working, and it's like, whoa, I've shown up for you, I've provided for you, why are you not focused on me. You know I'm going to do a miracle out of it. And it's like, it's hard. And I can't imagine being like Jesus. And that's why God says like a mustard seed of faith. But like we need to be able to be like, you know what, God? I trust you. I don't know how you're going to do it, but I know that you're going to show up and I know that you're going to provide. And I'm saying this coming from a place where I lack so much trust sometimes because, and it really breaks my heart, and it's no fault to like anyone, but I just have such a hard time. Actually, it is a fault to somebody, but I'm not going to name names on here. But it's true, and it's like Jesus never did anything to make me lose trust in him. He always provided. He always got me through it. So it's like he should be the one that I trust the most with everything, you know?
What you just said was really beautiful. I'm glad that you got deep because I can relate to that. I can relate to being like a Mary too. Being, I think one of the hardest things is death for people, especially when you lose someone at a younger age. We all have this envision that we're all gonna live till we're gray and old, and unfortunately that's not the reality of this world. And I think when you said like when people are like, why God? Like we had a future together and now it's just gone. And I think this is where people lose their faith. Even if you're a Mary or you're a Martha. And it's like, even if you do have that mustard seed of faith, it's like, even if like you have that little bit of hope and then something drastic and awful happens, it's like, why? Why, God? And it's like, now I really can't believe. Now I really can't because he didn't show up for me, or how could this thing happen if God loves us? Because it's awful.
Yeah.
Natural disaster, death, murder, all the things, sexual abuse. Like how? Yeah. How does God allow these things to happen? And I think the hardest truth as a Christian is knowing that even in this world, there is going to be evil, but God is still good.
Amen.
And the hardest thing is to separate from what God allows and what God does to us. Mm-hmm. And when we separate those two, you can really see God's love through those hard times. Yeah. And you can separate the evil and know that this is just the here and now, and we are to go home to the when and then in heaven, and we are to, feel eternal peace, and we're not going to suffer anymore. Mm-hmm. That's the hope. That's what you believe in when you believe in God. And like, it's so hard because again, like this world can really suck and like really bad things happen, and it's just, that's like the hardest thing. Yeah. And it's like, the reason I go to say all of that is because no matter if you have faith like Mary, or you are distracted like Martha, in the back of your head, you're always wondering if God's really real and if he's really there. And I just challenge you guys to turn to God and pray to him and see him in the day-to-day, in the good and not in the evil. Like, see him in the midst of the good, what he's doing around you that is good, because he is there with you all the time.
Amen. Yeah, that was so good. I'm so glad that you said that. Like, truly, especially like just talking about like the death part of it all. It's like, that's so hard. Like for me, like I've never said this on here, but like my people know, like I lost my dad when I was 2, and something that always stuck with me, and my mom, I'm gonna start crying again. Jeez Louise. My mom is probably the strongest woman I've ever met in my life. And I love her to death because I don't know what I would do without her. And so my dad, he passed away when I was 2, like I said, 4 days before my 2nd birthday. So that was crazy for my mom, I could imagine, because I don't know what I would do when you have a 2-year-old and literally somebody that you love so much just passed away, and you think you have your whole life ahead of you with this person, and it's like, whoa. And when I tell you that my mom used to record everything, and she actually still does. She records everything, and she takes pictures and all of the things, and she was recording. She had the funeral on the camera, like she recorded the service and everything, and literally when I tell you it cut to my birthday, in the same clip, I sobbed, and I'm sitting there, and she comes home, and she's like, what's wrong? I was like, how did you do this? Like, how did you get through this? How did you just put on a smile? She's like, Rachel, she was like, I would not, and I was actually talking to her the other day, and she was like, we weren't even talking about that, but we were just talking about her life and our life together and all the things, and she was like, I would not be here without God. She was like, you and him were my rock. I did everything for you, and he got us through it. And she just has so much faith, and I just aspire to be like her in every shape and every form. I absolutely adore her, and she means the world to me. And I just wanted to say that and to share that, because even though, like, anytime I'm going through something, anytime I'm having a hard time trusting or whatever, she's like, he will get you through it. You need to believe that. You need to understand that. If it's not today, it'll be tomorrow. And she just always points it back to God, that he is going to do amazing things, and you have to trust and believe that, even on your lowest day, even in the valley. So I just wanted to share that. So
Thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
That I feel like people might need to hear too. And if you don't have an answer, that's fine. But why doesn't she blame God? Why has she never, or
That's
you?
a good question.
Because like there's people who do, and it's like,
I don't even know. I never really like asked that question, because she was just so like, actually I do know. I think, what was it? She was like, I can't change the way things happened, and she's like, I wouldn't change it. She was like, if he didn't pass away, he, like, not like to say like good riddance or anything like that. I don't want anybody to think that, but like, if he didn't pass away, we wouldn't have my brother, I wouldn't have my sister, I wouldn't have, life would be completely different, and it could have been better, it might have been worse, I don't know, I can't say those things, but it just, life wouldn't be the way that it is now, which is hard. And then like coming from me, like that's just hard when I know where I am now, and I love the people in my life, and I still cry about my dad, and it gets easier to talk about, but it's also like, I personally feel, I don't, maybe you have too if you've ever lost somebody that young, but there are days where I, for a really long time, had struggled with my identity, because I only know a little bit about my dad. Like, this is just kind of going off on a tangent, but we moved up here from Connecticut, so I didn't really get to see my dad's side of my family that often. It was just kind of here and there, so that was really hard. So it caused a lot of things that I still deal with to this day. But at the end of the day, it's like, I love who I have in my life now. I wouldn't want to change my family. Do I wish my dad didn't die? Absolutely, 100%. I wish he was still here. It's my dad, but I wish he was still here, but I don't wish my life would be any different.
That's
beautiful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it is. Thank you for sharing that.
But yeah,
Someone's
I think that's
definitely
why. Yeah, I think that's why she doesn't blame him, because she knows that it's, and she says it all the time. She says it's God's plan, not mine. And if that had to happen, then there was a reason behind it. So yeah.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thank
sharing.
you. Thanks for the question.
You're
I love
welcome.
you.
I love you too. That's really gonna help some people.
Yeah.
And I think like moving forward to wrap up the end of John, this part is really important too. So if you ever read this full story, you know that Jesus ends up raising Lazarus from the dead, which is amazing and absolutely a miracle. And like we touched on a little bit, Martha said, but God, it's gonna smell in there, and he's been dead for 4 days. And it's like Martha still had a little bit of lack of faith from my perspective.
Yeah.
And then moving forward into that, Jesus says, didn't I tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? And then he goes, Lazarus, get up. And Lazarus gets up. And then now I want to move on to chapter 12.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
So John chapter 12 is really, this is what really takes the cake, brings it all home, wraps it up. So 6 days before Passover, Lazarus, Martha, and Mary were back at Martha's house. And it's like a full circle moment for sure. Martha is serving again. She is serving the people of the house. They're all reunited. And then Mary gets on her knees and anoints Jesus' feet with this expensive oil. And this oil cost her life savings. Some scholars say it's $30,000 worth.
Wow.
That's a lot of money.
That's crazy.
But to put it into perspective, you have this woman who is literally giving her life for Jesus. And I think it's so beautiful because you're really seeing Mary's growth here in her faith. From when she told Jesus, why couldn't you just been here? To he rose her brother from the grave, to now she's like, you know what? I was at your feet before, but now I'm giving you everything at your feet. So when we say we're leaving it at Jesus' feet, we're leaving our life at his feet, because that's what Mary did. Mary laid down her life, her worth savings, the oil, that's how you showed respect to someone. You, like Jesus, all them in the Jews back then washed each other's feet. She's putting oil on his feet. And it was expensive oil. So like, to put that in perspective for you, it's like when we say, again, lay it at Jesus' feet, it's literally saying whatever it is, lay it at his feet. Lay your life at his feet, because he is going to bless you. And he is going to work a miracle just like he did for Martha and Mary.
Yeah.
And I have one more thing to add to that. And actually, do you have anything to add to that?
I do.
Okay,
yeah,
you go
I
first.
can go off of that. I think that it's, again, like, when we say lay it at his feet, it's giving up control at his feet. It's giving up worries, care, anxiety, everything. It's not us being like, God, thank you, and I love you, and here's everything, and being like, okay, that was a really good prayer. Pick it up and see you later. Like, it's leaving it at his feet and being like, God, I don't know how you're going to do this. Here you go. This is what I can give you, and I love you, and please just do what you need to be done and leave it alone. Don't think on it. And every time you think on it, every time this happens to me, anytime I think on it, I'm like, it's not for me, God, this is yours. This is yours. And keep re-surrendering it, because it's not for you to worry about. It's not for you to be holding. That weight will drown you. So
I
that's
love
all
that
I
you
wanted
said
to
that.
add.
Yeah. So then going forward, the next part is so funny. So one of the disciples that was there in the home was Judas. And if you guys know anything about Judas, Judas was the one that turned Jesus in. And he has a purpose to play in the story of Jesus. But he also had a part to play in this story. And he was a thief. He loved money. But he made a comment to Jesus about the oil, and he said, isn't that a year's worth wages? Isn't that like expensive oil? Why would you do that? That's a whole nother story about Judas and his perspective of Jesus and everything that, you know, he had going on. But the point that I'm going to turn to is he made a comment to Jesus about Mary. He said, why did she do that? Because that's crazy, basically. And then Jesus replies, leave her alone. And he also basically said, even if this oil wasn't used now, it would have been used at my burial. Like, he knew Martha's heart posture towards him, which was really important. And the point I want to make here is Jesus will defend you.
Yeah.
You don't need to defend yourself. No matter who you're around, no matter what you're doing, if your eyes are fixed on Jesus and you're scared about what other people think, you don't need to defend yourself.
Yeah.
Jesus defended Mary. Mary did not once say anything back to Martha back in Luke, did she? She didn't say anything in John either when Judas spoke up about her. She didn't say a thing. She just had her eyes fixed on Jesus the whole time.
Yeah.
So for me and for you, it's like, if you're a follower of Jesus and you are scared about what other people think of you, and if you're scared what your family or your friends are saying about you, leave it.
Yeah.
Leave it at Jesus' feet like Mary did, because Jesus will defend you.
Yeah.
And you might not see it, you might not hear it, but he will defend you. And that's your hope, that's your faith.
I'm like so happy that you brought this up, because oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, no, it's so true. Like, that is so good. That is such a good point to like bring up, because holy cow, that was, I didn't like even put that together. I'm like so in shock right now. I love
Isn't that everything you said in
That
the
is
video?
everything I said in the video. I'm like, whoa,
He
wait a
used you.
minute.
You had no idea.
High five.
You had no idea, see?
Wait, oh my gosh.
What a revelation.
No, that's so good. Like, I didn't even, heck yeah, I love it. But that's just so good. And it's true. It's like, it's literally like, let them say whatever they want to say. Let them do whatever they want to do. It doesn't even matter, because you, like, it's you and God, and that is it. He is all that we need. He is all that we're ever going to need. He's our daily bread. Like, it's just fix your eyes on Jesus, and it's all going to work out in his timing and his plan. And it's like, I still need to get this, but it's just like, we are working towards it. We're growing towards it. And it's just really trusting that God is going to get you to where you need to be.
Yeah.
Like, in everything, every setback that you have, everything, acknowledge it, and honestly thank him for it, because look at where you're going. Look at what's going to happen out of that. You don't know what that setback is going to set you up for. So it's like, it's huge. It's going to play such a big role, and just be like, you know what, God, I know you're going to turn it around. I know that there's something greater. I know that I am made for more, and you are going to do something amazing with my life. And I don't know what it is yet, but I'm okay with it being your way and not my way.
Amen.
You know?
I love that.
Yeah.
And so now, to wrap it up all together, I have one more cool point. I don't know if you have pulled this out or not.
Yeah, I'm ready.
There's been a few sermons about this, so this is where I kind of got the idea from, but God really did also give this to me, and it is, you want to be a Mary before you're a Martha. I'll say it again. You want to be a Mary before you become a Martha. Mary had her eyes fixed on Jesus, and Martha was serving Jesus. Before you step in a role of serving your community or doing anything for the Lord, make sure your cup is full of the Lord, of his word, of his truth. Make sure your eyes are fixed on him. Be a Mary before you become a Martha.
Amen. That was so good. So good.
And
I love it. I'm sorry. That was just so good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that too, and again, like, I heard that, but God was telling me, like, it's all about self-control. The Holy Spirit gives us all different types of fruit, and one of them is self-control. And Martha at times did not have self-control in my eyes when I'm reading it, because she, whatever tone she had with Jesus, she still had a tone of her control. And she wanted to be in control. And then Mary was just she was just focused on what God had to say. And I think there is a good balance of, again, being Martha and Mary, but I really think it's important to have self-control if you are in any type of environment. If you are a Christian, it's are you being obedient to God? Are you reading his word? Are you really fixed on him like Mary, so that when you do go and serve, you are bringing everything that the Lord has for you to give, because are you trying to get the glory from serving? Like, oh, I hope they notice that I did this today, or I hope they see this and it gets this many likes. Like, is it for your glory or is it for God's glory?
That's so good.
God's glory is all that matters.
Yeah.
And that's why I just want to put that out there as well.
That was so good. I love that you said that, because it's really true. Like, the more that you're in, what was it? There was like a quote one time that was like, the more you're with God, or like the more you're reading, or I can't remember. The more that you're in the Word, the more that you become like Jesus.
Yes.
The more you can just, you like look, you smell, like everything. You just act as if like Jesus was right next to you. And like, that's honestly for this week, I think that's going to be my goal, is just to spend more time with God, just to have my cup filled more. And I've been doing it this week since our last challenge. So I'm really happy with that. I'm like, before I deleted Instagram, I deleted everything. I posted that. Did I even post that? No, Maddie posted that video for me. And I dipped. I was like, Maddie, here you go. Send this. I feel like God really needs to get this out there, send this, and I'm out. And I deleted it. So Maddie posted it, and I was like, I'm gonna repost it, and then I'm goodbye. So I deleted that. That was huge. That is something that I've been struggling with for such a long time.
Yeah.
So to delete that and be like, wake up in the morning, and then I'm listening to my audio Bible and like vibing out, like worship music. It's crazy the amount of time I have now. I'm like, wow, wild.
What do I do with myself?
Yeah, but how did your challenge go?
My challenge went good. I ended up getting to speak to someone at a restaurant. God was telling me to speak to this woman, and I was like, God, like, no, like, I don't know, I'm scared she might reject me. And so I asked her if she knew Jesus, and she said yes. And I asked her if she needed anything to, pray about, and she said yes. And we had a really good conversation. Turned out she had been to our church before, and it was just such a God wink of like, okay, like, if you just trust me and you do speak to these people, like, I'm telling you who to speak to first off. So I already know what they're gonna say, and I already know like how it's gonna go. So just do it, because it's not like I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go talk to whoever, whatever. Like, no, God's literally like, go talk to them, because I have a purpose. There's a setup that's happening, So it was a really cool moment. And with that being said, I think for this week and talking about Martha and Mary, I really want to challenge myself to rethink about how I am serving, and how, if I am being humble, if I am truly having self-control, am I really spending enough time? You can never spend enough time with God, let me just say that. But am I choosing Him in the times that I need to be choosing Him? Where am I spending my time? Am I distracted like Martha? And also just turning to Him in the times of doubt. And I think that's what it would be. It's like literally all those things. It's cultivating self-control around my time with God, and also how can I now pour onto other people, because I cannot pour from an empty cup. And I think that is something I need to reevaluate.
Yeah. I love that. I like this challenging idea. I think it's a really good way to keep us accountable. We want to know under the Esther video if you did your challenge and what it was, so definitely comment that below. And then we want to know, you will be acting this week as well, so we definitely want to know what your challenge is for this week too, so definitely comment that below. I'm really happy with this, and I feel like
we did a good job.
So well. Yeah.
We went deeper. We hope that you guys enjoy our testimonies, and that you are really seeing our vulnerability and seeing our walks with God, and that this is not just for us, but this is really to expose you guys to who Jesus is, because that's all we're here to do.
Yeah, amen. That's so good. Do you have anything else that you wanted to add or touch on?
No, I think we touched on a lot.
Awesome. So we hope that you guys loved this video. Again, comment your challenges below. We want to know, DM us, like all of the things. If you have questions or prayer requests, we are here to help and answer anything. But we hope to see you guys next time
for such time as this.
Bye guys.